welcome to Crime Bytes, the show where we talk about some truly bizarre and disturbing crime cases. My name is Eliza, and today is True Crime Tuesday. Yeah, I think we're going to try Eliza. My name is Elizabeth. I'm bad with names and I can't even pronounce my own name properly, so we're off to a great start here. Anyhow, I went with Elizabeth until I was off to college, and I switched it to Liz. It was a good switching phase. It's shorter and I can pronounce it, so yeah. But I've been playing around with Eliza in my head for a little while now, and this past week went so well for me in life that I want to dye my hair, change my name, and move to Florida. Have you ever been so delusional and wrong about something that it seemed like the best choice? And I can't move to Florida at the moment, so I lightened my hair, and we're gonna try on Eliza for a little bit. Anyways, how many Jaws fans do I have with me? Obviously, I'm a huge Jaws fan, and the first one was obviously classic, but Jaws the Revenge ended up being my favorite out of those when I was younger, and I didn't know that the sweet little girl playing Thea Brody...
Where's the lady who brings the soda? They have them on the big plane.
There's some coffee in the thermos.
I'm too young for coffee.
Oh.
Can I drive?
She's got a story, a very, very sad one at that. But before we get into that, let's pause for a quick promotion. And we're talking Hollywood today. And when I think Hollywood, I think blonde hair, red lips, and white teeth. And if your teeth aren't looking so white, may I suggest trying Snow. Snow's got you covered with affordable and effective teeth whitening options. It's fast also. You'll see results in like the first week, so there's nothing to wait for, especially now, because if you click the link in my description, you'll get an extra 15% off. So let's go. Okay, so let's meet little Miss Thea Brody. Thea was played by a sweet little girl named Judith Barsi, and if you weren't a Jaws fan, maybe this one will spark a memory.
Oh, yes. I do.
She was also literally the cutest voice in the world, Ducky, on The Land Before Time. Ducky and Littlefoot were my personal favorites. Ducky just had such this cute, optimistic innocence that we all really could stand to learn something from.
Hello. I said hello. What is your name? Maybe you cannot talk yet, huh?
Don't you know anything? Long necks don't talk to, whatever you are.
Me? I'm a long neck too, see? And I have a long tail like you. All right. I am not a long neck. I'm a big mouth. But I am all alone. I lost my family in the big earthshake.
You want to go with me?
Yeah! Oh, yes. I do.
All right, come on.
Would it be a little weird to say Ducky inspired me as a kid? Because she totally did. What I didn't know back then was that she was voiced by little Judith Barsi, someone who lived so much, maybe more good and bad in her short life than most of us will ever see in a lifetime. So let's meet Judith Barsi. She had quite the interesting backstory. She was born in LA on June 6th in 1978 to Hungarian immigrants Jozef and Maria Barsi. Jozef and Maria were Hungarian immigrants who fled from their homeland during the uprising that happened in 1956. They actually fled separately, and Jozef had a family before he met Maria, but their paths would cross when Jozef was single again and Maria was working in a cafe in LA as a waitress. How cute is that? So they seem to have found each other from halfway across the world, and in 1977 they would get married. Shortly after that, Judith was born. Judith was a happy little girl who loved being outside, and Maria always wanted to be an actress herself, but had sort of resigned her life to being a stay-at-home mom to Judith. She did, however, think that her daughter would make a great actress, so she started kind of coaching her in that direction. She would practice acting, singing, pronunciation, posture, anything like that that would prepare Judith for the life of a star from the time she was around 5. And people would tell Maria that she was silly and that Judith would never make it, but Maria really saw something special in her daughter, and so did a casting director when they were filming a commercial at an ice skating rink that Judith and her mother were spending their day at. They spotted her just being herself and thought she would be perfect for a different commercial that they were planning for, a Donald Duck orange juice commercial.
Ever since Mom and Dad found out that Donald Duck is 100% pure orange juice, oh, please. We don't know what to do with them anymore.
This would sort of launch her career because they kept booking her for more commercials, and she would branch out into TV. The first show she appeared on was called Fatal Vision, and we are going to circle back to that one. But she was also on some bigger TV series like The Twilight Zone, Punky Brewster, Growing Pains, and Cheers. She was small for her age also, which was quite perfect for Hollywood because with child acting, if you have a 7-year-old who can convincingly play a 5-year-old, they're going to be able to do that with a higher level of reasoning than a 5-year-old playing a 5-year-old would be able to do. She was basically built for this, and by the age of 7, she was pulling in $100,000 a year in the late 80s. Her family would move into a 3-bedroom house in LA, and their life looked like a dream come true. Judith was living the life that me and so many other little girls could only dream of. Or was she? Unfortunately, everything was not so picture perfect under the surface. And the more she got successful, her father, Jozef, started to become more and more bitter. His daughter was more successful than him, and over time, it seems like that got to him. He would start drinking, and he had a few instances where he was driving under the influence recorded. He would go out drinking and then come home and just rage at his family. He would start saying, "I'm going to kill that whore," about his wife to his friends. And he would start collecting gasoline in cans and fill them in his garage, and then bring his wife in there and tell her that if she ever wanted to leave him, he would burn the whole house down with both them and their daughter in it. He would threaten his family in many different ways, but his most twisted threat was to kill himself and Judith and leave Maria alive to suffer. Jozef's cycle of abuse was gradual, but it ultimately did lead to violence. We're going to touch on his first family now really quickly. He met his first wife, Clara, in Paris, and just like with Maria, they were both Hungarian immigrants fleeing Hungary for a better life. From Paris, they would move together to New York and have 2 children. And from there, Jozef would start up drinking, being verbally abusive, and it would go on and escalate from there. Clara didn't want to leave him. She really wanted to keep the family together, but then he started abusing their children, and that she just couldn't live with. So she fled, and he would apparently threaten to burn the house down with them in it as well. So she would take the children and flee to Arizona. He would follow them there and beg her for a second chance, and she wouldn't give it to him. And when he finally accepted that it wasn't going to happen, he grabbed a cast iron pan and whaled her in the face with it, leaving her with a black eye, and took off for LA, where he would attempt to completely reinvent himself and start a new life with the beautiful new waitress he met at the little cafe down the street, Maria. So in December of 1986, Maria would file her first police report. She said that Jozef was physically abusive, and she would say that Jozef had punched her in the face and strangled her. Police could not see any evidence of this, and that's how it was left. I mean, it was the 80s, and she ended up dropping the charges with that vibe. But it was actually a little bit of a wake-up call for Jozef, apparently. He would slow down on his drinking, which is great, and you would kind of think that that would help with the abuse, but it actually didn't. It ended up being worse. He had this habit of intercepting Maria's mail from her family in Hungary to make sure everything there was acceptable to him. And one of her close family members passed away, and there was a funeral in Hungary, and he had hid the letter so she wouldn't know about it to go. It was an extremely suffocating and controlling environment for Maria, and she really didn't know what to do. Judith was attending public school, and she would tell her friends things here and there about her father, and she thought that they were normal because how would she know differently? But the story she was telling made her friends terrified of him. And just like with his first family, Jozef would escalate from taking his aggression out on Maria to taking it out on Judith. One time, he picked her up by her hair and threw her to the ground. And then another time, he threw a pot at her and gave her a bloody nose. And when she was 9, she landed that role of Thea in Jaws the Revenge. She was so excited about filming in the Bahamas with her mother. Jozef comes into her room while she's packing and holds a knife to her throat and tells her that he will find her and cut her throat if she and Maria don't come back home from her filming. At 9 years old, he thought Maria might try and escape, and can you blame her? Maria would make some friends on the set there and open up to them, and they would encourage her not to return, but she would go back and forth and kind of be a little wishy-washy. So then one person from the set would go back and reminisce. It was a little like a boy who cried wolf situation, and they didn't realize how bad it really was back home, and I get that. Some people tend to exaggerate or make up situations for attention, but because of things like this, it's always a good idea to try and offer sound advice and be there for people when you can, because unfortunately, Maria's cries for help were a little misinterpreted, and her desire to keep her family together or fear of Jozef just outweighed that need to leave. I'm not sure entirely, but it looks like she did make some friends and ask for help, and it didn't seem like it may have been taken as seriously as it should have been. That poor little girl who was being hunted by a fictional vindictive shark was literally being hunted by something way worse at home. Maria decided to stop at her brother's house in New York before they went back home to LA. Jozef would find out, call the house, ask to speak to Judith, and then remind her about what he threatened before they left with that knife. And poor terrified little Judith would tell her mother, and the next day they would be on a plane back to LA, which I'm trying here, but what? She tells her mother her dad threatened to slit her throat, and her mom responds by going back home. The only thing I can get was maybe she was so afraid but felt like she could handle it. Like if she did the right thing, it would work out. Or maybe Jozef would actually do it somehow, find a way to do it somehow if she didn't come back. One could only guess, but she went back and the dynamic would get even stranger if that's possible. Jozef would be cheating as well, because why wouldn't he be? And Maria's new plan was to get him to leave her because he didn't want them to leave him. So, girl. Anyway, she stopped taking care of herself physically. She stopped cleaning the house. Nothing worked, and everyone around them grew more and more concerned about the whole situation. Some of their neighbors were offering both her and Judith a safe haven if they needed a place to stay while they got on their feet. She really just wanted Jozef to leave so she didn't have to deal with it. And Judith was obviously affected by all of this. She gained weight, she started pulling out her eyelashes and the whiskers of her cat because all of her anxiety from everything going on here. Then, when she is auditioning for her role in All Dogs Go to Heaven, she ends up breaking down in the middle of the audition. She just starts crying and can't explain what's going on. And this is Judith Barsi. She's a seasoned little actor. She knows what she's doing. They would call in a child psychologist, and after just a session, they would say that Judith was a severely physically and mentally abused child, and they immediately called Child Protective Services. They would go to Maria first, and she would tell them everything. And she would also tell them that she was planning to divorce Jozef and move out. And at that point, she actually had been renting an apartment for a few weeks and started bringing Judith there as their little safe haven away from Jozef during the day. So she would tell them she just had to make that final cut and her and Judith would be in their new place. And this was enough for them to drop the case. They didn't wait to see if she actually did move, which they took a lot of crap after, and honestly, that's how they could have fixed this. They could have followed through to make sure she did what she said she was going to do, like they're supposed to do now. Apparently, this particular worker was overloaded, like we mentioned last week, and like we always seem to be. They had 67 cases, and they're allowed 50. So because it looked like this was really happening, that was enough at the time, and again, this was in the late 80s, so we've learned some things from this case and other cases like it. Unfortunately, the overloaded thing just seems to be worse, if that's even possible. Anyhow, Maria was trying to work towards freedom in her own way. It seemed like she really was trying, but she was afraid, and she was slowly filling their new apartment with their most important things from their house. She was trying to do it slowly, though. Maybe it was like if everything was ready, then pulling that switch would be just a little bit easier. It does make a little sense, but one day when she brought her car full of boxes over, Jozef followed her and he confronted her. And Maria acted really fast and would tell him she was helping a friend move, and he actually believed her and didn't end up finding out about the apartment, but he knew where it was, which made Maria feel like her whole plan was ruined. Her friends and family would tell her, just get a new place. Really, like just get a new place. She starts backpedaling though and rethinking everything. And while I'm writing this, I'm trying to put myself into Maria's shoes. And it's so hard. I think she was really afraid that if she left, Jozef would find her and kill her and Judith. So him not knowing where they were planning to escape and then finding out would have been huge. It's hard to form a clear and decisive plan when you are dealing with so much fear and anxiety and just that kind of belligerent attitude. She still had neighbors and friends attempting to support and counsel her though, and Judith would hang out at one of their houses quite a bit to try and escape her house, and she would tell them that she was afraid because her daddy was drunk all the time and he said he was going to kill mommy. Can you even imagine? On July 25th of 1988, just a little over a month after her 10th birthday, Judith would be observed riding around on her little pink bike in the sunshine, looking like she was having a blast. That evening, Maria would put her to bed and then head to bed herself, leaving Jozef drinking in the living room as she did so many other nights. When Jozef was sure they were both sleeping, he went into his bedroom closet and got out a .32 caliber pistol, crept into Judith's room, looked at his sweet little daughter fast asleep, and then shot her right in the head. This would wake Maria up, and she knew, and she ran to her little girl, but was met by Jozef in the hallway before she could even get there. And they struggled briefly before he shot her in the head as well. Then, for about 2 days, he left their bodies right where they were. He just kind of carried on for 2 days. Maybe he was trying to figure out what to do. Maybe he wasn't ready to go himself yet. Who knows? The day after they were murdered, Judith was supposed to have a recording session for All Dogs Go to Heaven. The agent would call the Barsi home, and Jozef would tell them that a black car had come to pick them up, and he wasn't even living there anymore, and he had just stopped by to say goodbye, which, okay. Then on July 27th, one of their neighbors, Eunice, would be out watering her plants when it sounded like an explosion was coming from the Barsi house, so she ran and called 911. And then came back outside and there was smoke coming out of the windows. So little Eunice goes over with her gardening hose to try and help the firefighters until they get there, which is like, it's a cute little thing in this story because when the firefighters did arrive, they got the situation under control and they would find 3 dead bodies inside. Jozef ended up taking the jars of gasoline to create a small fire. He poured it all over Maria and Judith before he shot himself. And that was actually the explosion that Eunice had thought she heard when she was gardening. The news would break the next day. The director of The Land Before Time and All Dogs Go to Heaven, Dawn Bluth, would say she was absolutely astonishing. She understood verbal direction even in the most sophisticated situations. He also remarked how hard it was to find child actors for roles and was so impressed with Judith that he was planning on continuing to use her in future roles. All Dogs Go to Heaven would be her last role, and she had just finished recording her lines before she was murdered. Burt Reynolds voiced Charlie the dog, and apparently he had to do over 60 takes privately to get through this scene.
Charlie, will I ever see you again?
Sure. You know, goodbyes aren't forever.
Then, goodbye, Charlie. I love you.
Love Survives. The credit song for the film was written for Judith. I can't. All right, now let's jump briefly back to Fatal Vision. Fatal Vision was a true crime docu-series about a man named Jeffrey McDonald, who we might have to cover. A U.S. Army soldier who murdered his pregnant wife and 2 daughters. Judith played one of the daughters in the series. How chilling is that? Judith and Maria were buried in unmarked graves for around 16 years until 2004 when fans crowdfunded headstones for her and her mother. All right, guys, and today's real fact with Scoop Dog is... I don't even know. I've got a bunch of real facts. I don't even know. I got a bunch of real facts. I don't even know if I should keep this section with my state of mind lately. Like, who the fuck am I to be giving out real facts? That's why Scoop Dog does it. Who the fuck is anyone though, really? We're all just people, and some of us are a little more confident that we're right than others, or something like that. So for today's positive highlight, I'm fresh out of positivity at the moment. I've been good keeping up my smiley face, but I'm going to throw on a reel that I stumbled across on Facebook that literally describes this darkness, and I hope it can encourage you if you're feeling something similar.
The reality of suicide is this, that if somebody wants to commit suicide, they will. It took my wife 3 attempts to commit suicide, 3 attempts in one night, and the 3rd attempt, she ended up dying. And that is the reality of depression. That's the reality of what's going on in our head when we feel that we're alone, that we're broken, that we're damaged, that we're invisible, that we're tired of wearing the fake smile, we're tired of feeling like a failure, we're tired of feeling like a burden in life. We think that we are the problem, and with us gone is the solution to everybody's happiness, and it will bring everybody a better life because we are the one dragging everyone down. We can't share this with them because what, we're already a burden. Why are we even going to trouble them with our problems? They don't care about us. That's how we truly feel. And I know that because in 2018, I attempted suicide. In 2017, my dad committed suicide. I lost a wife and a father to suicide. That is how real this shit is. And people don't get it. It's not just in your head. You just don't smile and get happy all of a sudden. It is a dark hole. And it engulfs your whole soul, and you don't realize it. And it is a slow progression to get there, to the point that you finally wake up one day and you realize that you are crying alone at 3 a.m. biting a fucking pillow so that you don't wake anyone up because you don't want to burden them with your problems, but you hope that they see it in your eyes and ask you if you're okay and actually dig in. But you know what? We don't know how to even ask for help. We are so paralyzed. We are so bought in and believing to our depression that nobody fucking cares about us. And for the ones out there going through this right now, I can tell you this, that you are amazing, you're wonderful, you're beautiful, you're smart, and there is somebody in your life that smiles every single day because you're in it. And you just don't see it. And it is a fight, man. That is the reality of depression. It's the reality of PTSD. It's the reality of trauma. And it just doesn't cure itself overnight. It is a progression of wanting it to get better. And you have to want it better, to be better than anything else in life. And you give everything to it through therapy, through reaching out, through cutting out toxic people, through all of that. I mean, what you're going through doesn't define you. Who you are defines you. And the definition of you is strong because you're still standing right now, no matter how many times life has beaten you down. Go look in the mirror and remind yourself that you're a BAMF, that you're a badass motherfucker, that you made it through 100% of your worst days to make it through to today, and you didn't come this far to only come this far. That somebody right now is smiling because you are that amazing and that you love them that much, then they don't even realize that you're struggling, so let them know. You're worth it. And what you're going through is temporary. And I can tell you this, the strongest thing I ever did was continue to live when I wanted to die because it got better. And it will get better for you. I believe in you.
So that's Eric Zink. You can check him out at ericbzink.com. I'll leave that in the description. It looks like he really turned his pain into purpose and works to help advocate for better mental health. And his reel really hit me. If it hit you too, I'd encourage you to check him out. So until next week, guys, please stay safe out there. Bye.